Sandra Abrokwa, welcome to Africa 54.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Start by maybe telling me some of the things that you work on at Viamo.
We are a social enterprise, and we work in the ICT for D space, so using mobile technology to drive behavior change communications and evidence gathering. And we work a lot with development partners, we work with the private sector, and we also work a little bit with government agencies as well.
What's your target audience?
It's everybody. It's everybody who can use technology, anybody who can use a mobile phone. And I'm not sure if you know some of the stats in Ghana. So mobile penetration is really high. We are, I think, at the last count, NCA recorded something like 113%, which means that anybody, who can, have a mobile phone has a mobile phone and oftentimes has 2 or 3 SIMs. So, I think it's ripe for this kind of work that we do.
Those are interesting numbers. When you talk about over 100%, it's like almost every single person there has a cell phone or can access a cell phone. But how about the internet? The internet rates in Ghana are not user-friendly.
People say that, but I think what's really good to remember is that we've come a long way. I think, they're still, high, what people would call high, but I think you also have to look at the fact that it's been coming down over time, and I expect that over time it will be even more affordable. It's certainly something that the MNOs that we work with are working on. So hopefully, we should see it come down and make it affordable because, I really believe in inclusion for all.
When you say the penetration is very high, especially in Ghana, do you even include the rural areas? Because I've traveled across the country, and there are some places where you really struggle to even get a good network.
These stats are like nationwide. It's over 100%, which means that anybody who is within, the space to have a cell phone and is willing to have a cell phone has one. But then when you break it up into like rural versus urban, I think there, the percentage goes on a little bit, lower. I think at the last count, it was something like, it was a little bit under 80%, which is still like pretty decent. What it essentially tells us is that most households will have access to a mobile phone. So even if not everyone in the rural home has a cell phone, they have access to it. So there might be one person like, the dad usually, because mobile phones tend to be more skewed towards men than women. Would have a cell phone that the woman and the children and other family members can use.
Earlier you say that one of your goals is you're trying to focus on women and sort of like come up with a way to include women. Can you speak to that?
It's part of the work that Viamo as an organization really tries to focus on. All of the data that we collect is always disaggregated by gender. Because we want to see how different things affect different genders. But I think particularly for me in Ghana, the work around financial inclusion is really important, and it's also really like timely. So we do a lot of work supporting partners, getting more women to become more economically empowered, getting them to use mobile money, getting them to access their agency when it comes to owning their own finances, even if they're working in health or working in agriculture.
When you talk to some of these women that you've worked with, what are their concerns?
I love that question because a few months ago we did some work with women fish farmers, right? So they were basically like women who were smoking fish. They have been doing it for their whole lives. Their grandmothers and mothers before had been doing it. And we were going to give them information about how to eat some of the fish so they could like be healthy and not have anemia, and how they could actually apply for loans and get into the financial inclusion space. And these were women who hadn't they had phones, but they barely kind of knew how to work the phones. But by the end of the program, they were using their phones. They were sending messages. They were listening to audio messages to improve their lives. So basically, what that tells us is that you can start out not knowing anything about how to use a cell phone, and especially how to like navigate through certain numbers and so on. But once we had trained them on it, they were fine. And it's something that I'm really proud of, because to see the trajectory of like where they were versus where they ended, I think that really tells you the power of mobile and the power of like giving people access to information, because at the end they transform their lives.
Who inspires you?
I think if I had to name one person, it would be my mom, because she's a real she's a real force.
Well, thank you so much, Sandra.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed the conversation, Paul.